We need you to meet with a resident. Those were the words that my program director and associate program director told me. In my role as a confidential advisor for our GME office, it was a sentence that I had heard before, a sentence that I liked to hear. I enjoyed helping residents. This was a sticky situation, though. This one hit a little bit close to home. This resident was being misunderstood. Her words were not being heard in the way that she intended them. She wasn't coming across in a way that flowed well with the department. I had been in this situation before. I had been this resident. I had actually been this attending too. I had gotten this feedback as well. How was I supposed to turn it around and now be the one giving the advice? How was I supposed to stay unbiased and give the professional answer when really all I wanted to do was rail against a system that misunderstood? I'm Dr. Molly Estes, and this is Critical Conversations.
Do you love medicine? Real medicine. Medicine unfiltered, unpredictable, and sometimes unfair. Well, this is the podcast for you. Because whether you're already in the chaos or training to join it, you'll hear the stories that don't quite make the textbooks. Because in the ER, there are no scripts, just real cases, real physicians, and real perspectives. This is Critical Conversations, Medicine, Policy, and the Frontline Experience. Welcome everyone to Critical Conversations, Medicine Policy, and the Frontline Experience. And guess what? If you're listening to this right now, this is actually our very first episode. So excited about it. We're so happy to have everybody here right now. So stop right now, go subscribe, go send this to your cousins, to your sisters, anybody who wants to listen to us talk about emergency medicine all day, send it to them. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. But we are so happy to be here, happy to finally be putting out this work that we are so proud of. And, it's here, it's real, it's finally happening.
I feel like we took our time with it because we wanted to create something special for our listeners and just make sure that we were giving them something that they could really use and relate to. We decided to start with something that we know everybody deals with, including us.
Yeah, so before we get started, let's just do some quick introductions so you kind of know who you're listening to today, I guess. I'm Joseph. I am a med student and a recovering healthcare administrator. Someone who's kind of seen the system from both sides, which just basically means that I've learned some things make a lot of sense, and then there's times when those things don't make sense at all.
And I'm Jazz, also a medical student, recent grad, actually, incoming PGY1. Thank you. But I came into more of a public health lens, so I'm always thinking about the bigger picture, like systems, access, disparities, and then seeing how that actually shows up in the ED.
And I'm Ty. I'm also a medical student. I started as an EMT, and I'm presently in the nonprofit sector, so I feel like I've seen every aspect of emergency medicine that a person can see, from the field to the community and from inside the hospital walls, and they are all very different experiences.
And different experiences is what this podcast is really all about. We're three people, different stages of training, completely different perspectives, just really trying to make sense of emergency medicine as we step into it.
Right, because on one end, there's what you're taught,
and then there's actually what happens.
And sometimes those two things don't line up the way we expect them to. Ever, right? Which is really that transition from being med student to resident and eventually to attending. And I don't think people really understand how big that shift is until you're in it at the moment.
Right. Because from the outside, I feel like it just looks like levels. Like, okay, you're a med student, then you're a resident, then you're attending. But each step is actually a completely different role.
I mean, think about it, guys. As a med student, we don't have the responsibility of a patient's life in our hands. When you start as a resident, that's when that responsibility is thrown to you. And you need to know what to do, and you need to know what's expected of you. And then as an attending, then you got the whole floor underneath you. So it never stops.
Think back to your very first rotation. What were some of the things that was going through your head when you think about, I'm about to go on my first rotation?
I mean, I was very nervous. I have a little bit of OCD in me. So I actually, and don't you guys make fun of me, I created my own medical notes journal. I got on Microsoft Word and I created like things so I can write out the patient's information, and I got it printed up at Staples and had like a little mini book. My roommate made fun of me for that.
I would pretend that I'm surprised, but I'm not, because I've seen it.
No, you're not.
This is 100% true. This is factual.
Very accurate.
For me, I felt nervous. I felt like I wasn't sure of what I knew, but I also felt very comforted because there were students there already. So it kind of felt like a ready-made community, and they were very hands-on and helping me to learn how to use the EMR and just learning the flow of that department that I was in.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said students were there, because that actually does help the process, because I'm always trying to figure out a spot where I can put my stuff at, my water bottle, my backpack, and all this stuff that I've brought to prepare myself for this rotation. And
you know what the issue is, Joseph?
What is it?
The issue is that you don't have a fanny pack.
Wait, a fanny pack?
Take it from me. You need a fanny pack. You have your pen. You have your little notepad. You can carry some mints. And if you need to do something like CPR, all you have to do is put it in sport mode, swing it to the back, and you're free in the front. You need a fanny pack.
That is a good idea, though.
Jasmine never sees
a good idea.
Allow me to influence you, yes.
Oh, man. No, Joseph, don't do it to yourself.
Don't do it.
You're going to walk into there thinking you're hot stuff with this fanny pack.
Fanny pack, right.
No,
maybe like a sling. Maybe I can get a sling. No?
A sling. A fanny pack. You need a fanny pack.
Okay, all right.
Doing CPR, fanny pack, things are just popping out all over the patient.
No way. Don't worry, I'll teach you. I'll do a tutorial for you.
A tutorial on how to use the fanny pack correctly and put it in sports mode. Okay, so I want you guys to think about, you've walked in, you've kind of assessed the area, you found a place for your stuff if you need to put your stuff down. What are some of the things that you think about or that runs through your head as a medical student?
Well, I must admit, my first rotation, my entire family dropped me off.
Wow.
They did. I was already a full-blown adult. They dropped me off. They came inside. They met the attending physician. They did all of that. So, not at all. I wish that I was, but I'm not. They all came in. It was terribly embarrassing, but it broke the ice and it made the rest of the day, very smooth.
That's hilarious. Jasmine, you always come up with a new thing every day. It's just a lot of things. I think for me, I don't know. I feel like it depends on the specialty. I feel like EM has some of the most laid back and coolest attendings.
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
So my experiences in EM are always a little bit more, even though I'm nervous because that's what I want to go into, so I want to make a good impression. They're usually the easier ones. Like, so you feel kind of like they're there for you. They're not trying to put you down. They're trying to get you to learn, and they're having fun themselves. So,
I was just, when you guys were just speaking, I was thinking about, I wonder if your first time as a resident, right? Do you go through kind of those same feelings? Do those same kind of emotions come up when you start off at your residency? You know, I've heard people say there's no, as soon as you graduate from med school, you just flip into all this knowledge, right? You still kind of go through this process of learning the whole time. But I wonder if they kind of have the same feelings that we have as a med students.
I think they do. I mean, there's no medical baby Jesus that comes from the sky and puts, you know, all this knowledge in your head. So they kind of have to be like us as medical students starting in rotations, except they're in a higher, you know, level of training. But I do remember I was with an intern one time, and she looked just as nervous as me. We were standing in the same corner, so I feel like I was just like, girl,
it
move
was
over
your
to
first day and
I
their
was just
first
like, that's
day.
my corner, not yours. So, you know, and we helped each other because we were both very nervous. And I think they just go through the same things. It's just more is expected of them.
Yeah, and I think we also tend to be very conscious of how people perceive us, because, you know, two people can have the same knowledge base and like one of them will stand out more than the other. And you always try to compare, like, is it me that's standing out? Is it them? Why are they standing out? What can I do to do the same? And it's just, you're just always so conscious of how people are viewing you as a student.
Definitely.
And luckily we have a guest that's going to help us walk through these transitions today.
Yeah, Dr. Molly Estes is an assistant professor and clerkship director at Northwestern. She spends a lot of time working directly with med students on rotations.
And guys, I will tell you from personal experience, she is the real deal. She knows what she's talking about. She cares about students, and she's an amazing mentor. And she knows all of the ins and outs of what it means to transition from a medical student to a resident to an attending.
This is what's going to make this conversation really valuable, because it's not just theory, it's someone who's actually lived it, right? Who's actually on shift, seeing what people notice, you know, what people remember, and really what ends up making its way into the letter that we call the slow.
Dun, dun, dun.
And we wanted to change specialties.
Yeah, so we'll get into things like what attendings are really paying attention to, you know, what students tend to overthink, and what people consistently miss that could actually help them.
And I think the most important thing about the process is just what mindset you have, because this is not a race, this is a marathon. And if you don't take care of yourself and the way your perspective is, it can really get to you.
Yeah, you're right. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters. It's not just about how smart you are. It's about becoming someone people can trust in those high pressure situations.
And that doesn't happen overnight. That's something you build shift by shift, brick by brick.
Patient by patient and decision by decision.
So if you're heading into your EM rotation, or you're in it right now, or just trying to figure out how to level up, you gotta hear this interview with Dr. Molly Estes.
Yeah, it can really help to save you on your next shift and just kind of teach you some things that you may want to know about beforehand, and, you know, save you from learning some things the hard way.
Which we've all done.
Yeah.
All right, this is Critical Conversation, so let's get into it. We're so excited to have Dr. Estes here with us. There's such a hierarchy, from med student to resident to, you know, attending, or I think I may have skipped fellow in there. It can be intimidating when you first walk into any situation with this hierarchy. You're trying to really figure out, should I ask a question? Should I not? If I ask the question to the wrong person, how is that going to make me look? Am I going to look stupid when I ask my question? How do you think med students should really walk into this experience in this hierarchy of medicine? Like, where do we fit in?
Well, you just went right to the crux of the matter. My gosh, your question just put me right back to my first emergency medicine rotation as a baby fourth year medical student and trying to find the one corner of the workroom that was safe to stand in as I'm frantically clutching my clipboard and trying to figure out what to do with my hands. I mean, I think we've all been there, right?
Absolutely.
So I would say, luckily enough, emergency medicine and the emergency department is actually one of the most non-hierarchical places you will ever find in the hospital. It's something that I tell my students all the time. And you can see this play out in a day-by-day basis. I mean, when it comes right down to it, to be very honest with you and with all of our listeners out there, we are just too busy and dealing with too many things and juggling too many patients all at the same time to really worry about who you are and the fact that you carry a certain title. All we want to make sure is that you've got the information you need in order to be able to do your job well. And so if you've got a question, then we are more than happy to answer it. And it doesn't really matter what you are, quote unquote, supposed to know at its most foundational basis. I tell my students when they rotate in the department, it doesn't matter who you ask or what you ask, everybody would be happy to answer your question. So that's my first answer. The second answer is that, well, there are some questions that maybe you should Google first before you decide to ask the attending, right?
Absolutely, yes.
I will admit that I have been asked on shift before, are Tylenol and acetaminophen the same thing? So exhibit A, maybe a Googleable question.
Oh no.
I have been asked where to find the Band-Aids, not a Googleable question, and actually a very appropriate question. So realize that as a medical student, yes, you are in our department to learn. Yes, we are very invested in having you learn with us. Yes, you are also developing the skill of lifelong learning. And so be teaching yourself how to answer your own questions, but realize that everyone there is available as a resource for you.
What you just said was great to hear because I know a lot of listeners, those med students listening, probably can get some relief from that there are times when you should be Googling first, or I guess the latest now is even chat GPTing.
Oh,
So,
be still my beating heart, but it's true. It's true.
right? Sometimes when you do have those questions that where you're really trying to make that connection between your textbook and that clinical knowledge meet, and that's what I feel clerkship really is really kind of combining those two and really learning how doctoring happens the day to day. So I'm really happy that you shared that with us. My next question for you. There's some residents out there. Now, these are people who have graduated, right? They are being called doctor. Their families, I have already asked them tons of questions. And, they've gotten their MD, DO. What do you think their role is in asking questions? How do you feel? Does it work the same? Should it work the same as med students, or is it a little bit different? What do you think?
Well, there is no magical download that happens when you cross that stage at med school graduation that suddenly makes you know all the things. Just like there is no magical download that happens on June 30th before July 1st, in between each year of residency, where you suddenly now know way more than you did before. So I would make the argument that the practice of asking questions, because that's really what is it is a practice of medicine, right? The practice of asking questions continues throughout the entirety of your career. And the style of it changes, right? So when you're a med student, you're asking, wait a minute, so I read this in my textbook, but now you're telling me this. Where's the disconnect? Where's the difference? Are my textbooks maybe just not showing me the full picture? Or do you, in your experience, know a little bit more than my textbook? As a resident, you're asking, all right, now how do I apply this to real life? So it's great that I have 6 different antiarrhythmics to choose from, but what are the nuances and the details that apply it to this particular situation? Once you
Okay.
get to attending hood, you're still asking questions of your colleagues and your consultants. But now it's much more of a question of, so in my practice and expertise, I'm used to dealing with this way. Or maybe even something a little bit deeper. I have never seen this before, but I think maybe you have. please help me because now I'm well beyond what I actually know. Or maybe we're just kind of being a little bit sly about it. I actually know exactly what's going on, but it's outside my specialty. Sorry, I can't cut out the appendix. I need you to do that for me, Dr. Surgeon. But that's how you ask questions never goes away. That is a part and parcel of medicine.
The practice of asking questions. I really like that.
Well, I appreciate that you mentioned the download that never happens. I think that we all expect to just feel prepared, but really we don't. So, how would you suggest that we prepare for that transition from medical student to resident, from PGY1 to PGY2? I think there's a certain pressure that must come with being a resident because you're expected to know a certain amount of information. But the truth is, you're just a post MS4. How can we prepare ourselves for residency? How can we better prepare ourselves to transition from being a resident to being an attending?
So, a good life lesson that I was taught is that you're always modeling yourself after someone who is a step ahead of you. So, if you're a fourth year student on your sub-I rotations, then you should be modeling your behavior off of the interns. And when I say modeling your behavior, I mean trying to carry as much responsibility as what they're carrying. So you should be trying to see at least the same number of patients that they're seeing, trying to know the results when they know it, trying to study in the way that they're studying. Are you going to be able to hit that mark? No, because you're not actually an intern yet. But if you're using that as the mark for what you're striving for what you're trying to achieve, then over the course of the entire MS4 year, by the time that you actually hit intern year, then you're there and you're ready for it. And then when intern year starts, then you're modeling yourself after the PGY2s in your program and continuing the process. So part of being prepared is modeling your behavior and pushing yourself. The other half of it is having grace with yourself and knowing that, no, you're never going to feel actually prepared. You're never going to feel like you actually know enough, or certainly, hopefully, you never feel like you know everything because nobody ever knows everything. But being able to be presented with your failings, being able to be presented with areas where you're not prepared, being able to have trusted mentors and attendings and co-residents in your life who care about you and your development, who are willing to point out to you, hey, maybe you need to work a little bit more at this, and be able to roll with those punches and say, yeah, maybe I do. And then having grace with yourself to realize that, well, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to be there someday. That's another huge component of actually making that transition. So push yourself early and often, but also have grace with yourself and realize that it's a process.
So, Dr. Estes, I want you to switch hats for a moment. We are going to talk about the infamous slow process. Now, we know it's notoriously anxious and anxiety provoking for students. From your experience, from, writing letters, probably, what's something students stress about that actually doesn't really matter? Or conversely, what's a critical aspect that often maybe gets missed by students?
So I think that students stress a little bit too much about knowing everything on rotation. When it comes to picking somebody who's going to be successful in residency, it's much more of a positive attribute to have someone who is teachable than to have somebody who is already there. Nobody should know everything, as I already alluded to. We don't expect you to know everything. In fact, if you knew everything already, then I would actually be out of a job, and I really like my job and would like to keep my job. So thank you for not knowing everything. That means I get to stay with what I'm doing. But when you're on rotation with us, what we want to see is we want to see your thought process. We want to see you pushing yourself, like I already said. We want to see you actually developing the skills that are going to carry you into residency. And so more than coming in as the greatest medical student since sliced bread, we want to see growth over the course of the month. We want to see someone who asks for feedback and then follows up on that feedback. We want to see someone who tells us what they think that they want to do for their assessment and plan. And even if it's completely wrong, it doesn't matter, because if we know what your thought process is, then we can give you guidance about your thought process. We want to see somebody who's a team player. It's really difficult to teach somebody during residency how to be a team player or how to be professional. We want to see somebody who's going to realize that every single person in the department, from the housekeeper to the social worker to the charge nurse to the attending, has equal worth when it comes to caring for our patients. Those are the things that we're really looking for, not if you can recite for me all of the class 2B, whatevers.
Thank you for that. And that drives me to the next question, which is about being proactive, right? So we hear that students hear a lot about being proactive or showing enthusiasm, if you will, on rotations. But practically speaking, what subtle behaviors or maybe habits genuinely capture your attention or your colleagues' attention and really earn the trust as a supervising physician?
Being a team player is definitely a big one. And when it comes to emergency medicine, being a team player is a little bit more subtle than maybe you're used to seeing on your inpatient rotations. So being a team player means that you are listening to the patients who are not necessarily your direct responsibility. So maybe they're not the ones that you're seeing primarily as the medical student, but you hear the residents say, oh, I know I need to call the nursing facility and try to get a little bit more information about this patient because I have no idea why they were sent over. And if you've got an extra 5 minutes, then you volunteer and say, hey, do you need me to call the nursing facility? That's huge. That goes really far. Or something as simple as always following up with your patients. So you have a patient with horrible abdominal pain and they get some pain medication. If you check on them 30 minutes later and then come back and update us, hey, it's been 30 minutes since they got that dose of morphine. They're still in a lot of pain. I think maybe they need a little bit more. That shows a lot of initiative and that we can trust you with a lot of responsibility. If you say, hey, the CT scan came back that shows acute appendicitis, is it okay if I go ahead and call the surgeon? Instead of just leaving the dangling participle, it shows acute appendicitis, and then pause and just wait for what comes next. If you show the initiative that you know the next step and you're willing to take responsibility for the next step, those are all of those behaviors that show us that, yeah, no, you're ready, you're there, you're present.
From policy shifts and patient care to system shakeups and medical breakthroughs, emergency medicine never stands still. This is Critical Conversations Frontline Triage, our rapid assessment of what's moving the needle in emergency medicine news right now. So here's how we're triaging it. The waiting room, it's important, but it doesn't need immediate action yet. Straight to the back, needs active awareness and should be on every EM clinician's radar. And then we have trauma bed. Immediate priority, this demands urgent attention from the EM community.
So we're triaging the news.
Yeah, basically.
Yep. I like trauma bay. That's my favorite one.
Of course. All right, great. First story up on deck is IMG visa instability. IMGs help keep America's hospitals running, especially in rural communities and safety net systems. But visa uncertainties continue to shake the residency pipeline, even after physicians have matched and are ready to start. When that pipeline stalls, staffing thins, emergency departments back up, and the communities with the fewest resources feel it first. So what do we think about this, team?
I'm going to go with trauma bay with this one, just because workforce disruptions really affect patient care immediately.
I'm going to have to agree with that because this affects both access and equity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you because at a time when we're facing a physician shortage, is this really the thing that we want to do to make the workforce gap even harder to fix?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so the next story, ICE presence at emergency departments, a little bit more serious. Reports of immigration enforcement activity near emergency departments are raising new concerns about patient trust and access to care. Federal law requires stabilization for every patient, regardless of status. But fear changes when and how people seek care. Delays lead to higher acuity, and over time, that becomes a public health challenge.
I'm gonna have to go with trauma bait on this one because fear-based barriers to care undermine public health.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jess, because stabilization is non-negotiable. So I'm gonna go with trauma bait as well.
Yeah, and I think like the heart of emergency medicine is that we're always balancing the duty to provide access to care, and this is just kind of undermining that.
Yeah,
it's true.
I agree.
All right, in our last story, global treatment breakthroughs and structural shifts. On a global note, as the U.S. reshapes its role with the World Health Organization, major treatment breakthroughs from research centers abroad are getting attention. From new FDA-approved advances in pancreatic cancer care to promising therapeutic HPV vaccines, and even, I think someone cured paralysis. Medical innovations worldwide is moving fast. So with medical innovation moving fast worldwide, is emergency medicine or medicine as a whole ready to adapt or at risk of being left behind?
Okay, I think with this one, we still need some mechanisms, to kind of evaluate and just respond to any global research. So I'm going to say, let's keep an eye straight to the back with this one. Let's keep an eye on it.
I'm going to have to go with trauma bay. I think that, innovation without equitable access only widens disparities.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with both of you guys, because with us being like the lowest in healthcare and health outcomes, I don't think we need anything else creating a gap for healthcare for our citizens. So
that's true.
That was this week's Frontline Triage, the conversation shaping emergency medicine beyond the hospital walls. If you want to stay ahead of what's impacting EM's frontline in real time, follow us at Critical Convos EM on all social media platforms. We continue tracking these developments between episodes and breaking down what they mean for emergency medicine. Now, let's get back to the interview.
So, Dr. Estes, you talked about how EM is a team sport. And we know that it's not just the doctors who are on the team. How have you really navigated moments when the way you were represented by others or by your environment or even by the system didn't really reflect who you actually are? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you were getting into this during your case.
Yeah, so if you can imagine the pressure cooker of emotions and personalities that is the emergency department, I mean, we're talking about some of your best friends and your worst enemies all in the same 5-minute span of time. Not really. I mean, I'm being very facetious with that statement, but as the physician in the department, it really is your responsibility to be the leader. Everybody's looking to you to be that epitome of professionalism and really take point on making sure that the rest of the team functions in a cohesive manner. And you really have to check yourself a lot of the time and make sure that you are portraying yourself and portraying your actions in a way that enables the team to operate well. And you're exactly right. I am definitely alluding to a moment in time in my case that I presented at the very beginning of the episode where this did not go so well for one of my residents. And I am alluding within the allusion to the case of a time when it didn't go well for myself. And so I'll share my story first. When I was a few years into my career, one of my medical directors came to me and shared with me that there had been multiple reports by my nursing staff and by my tech staff against me that I was rude and argumentative and just dismissive and all of these really negative things. And it broke me. Like when I say it broke me, it completely broke me, because hopefully anybody who knows me well knows that that is not the kind of person I am. I value people and I value people's opinions and feelings, and I would never want anybody to feel that way. I immediately responded with quite a bit of indignant anger, right? Because that's what we do when confronted
Mm-hmm.
with things that are uncomfortable to us.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
I wanted to see the proof, and then they showed me the proof. Then I just became really sad and broken, very appropriately so, because when it came right down to it, some of the things that I said in the department that I thought were a little bit funny, some of the sarcasm I used that I thought was coming across as sarcastic was not landing well. And that was on me. That was my fault. That was me misreading my team and misreading the communication that my team needed in order to feel cohesive in a unit and to feel like I respected them. And so, with some coaching from one of my medical directors that I really respect and see as a mentor to this day, I was able to learn different ways of phrasing things, different ways of approaching a conversation that was able to still reflect my personality, but communicated in a way that showed that I still respected the input of my team members and didn't leave them feeling like I was just dismissing their concerns. My case that I was talking about at the beginning was my moment when I could turn around and actually pass that knowledge on to one of my residents who was also in a similar situation. And so, in a very full circle kind of a moment, I was able to share with her the lessons that had been so hard for me to learn myself. And yeah, it was kind of a good moment for me. And I'm over many, many months, a good moment for her too, because we were both able to learn ways to still be true to ourselves, but also to make sure that we were fulfilling that role and that calling of being a physician leader.
Well, I wanted to touch on what you guys were just talking about. Like, Dr. Estes, you were saying the qualities that you look for in a resident that's applying. But in terms of me being an international medical graduate, I think I have a little bit of anxiety thinking that sometimes those qualities that you guys are looking for, those attributes you're looking for, are a little different because we come from a different system, right? Are those characteristics different? Are you looking for different things? Are there things that international medical graduates have to do to stand out amongst their US counterparts?
So, the question of an international medical graduate is a really complex one because it varies institution to institution and even program to program within institutions, depending on the specialty. A lot of institutions can't even host international medical graduates based off of whether or not we can support certain types of visas if you are a true international student, or even if the institution's GME office is willing to accept the diploma from the international institution, even if you are a US citizen. And so the question of being an international graduate just gets really complicated really fast. I would say at its most base level, your candidacy as an emergency medicine, a future emergency medicine physician, those characteristics and attributes do not change. Who you are as a physician, who you are going to be as a physician, does not change. So, being a patient advocate, being responsible, being a leader, being professional, like all of those things that I've been alluding to, doesn't matter where you did med school, it doesn't matter where you graduated from, it doesn't matter how you or where you did your away rotations at. Those personal attributes doesn't change. Now, all of the other characteristics of your application, the things that actually get your foot in the door for residency interviews, that's where your question is really coming around to. And that's the stuff that's really highly variable. And unfortunately, we don't have a unified system to really be able for me to like eloquently answer your question well. I can say that we are working on a more national wide level of information for our international graduates. That way we can better answer your question for in the future. Right now, some of the best resources that I do point my international graduating students to are people who have done it recently. So we just mentioned mentorship, so near peer mentorship. So my friends that I know who were international grads themselves, residents that I know of at other programs who just went through the exact same process, those are who I try to tie students who are going through the process now in with. That way they can get a little bit better guidance than what I'm actually able to provide.
And just to add that a piece, I remember having a conversation with the program director and I asked the same exact question. I was so surprised when she came back and was just like, we can teach you all the clinical skills to make you a great doctor, but the things that really, really we're looking for are people with this intrinsic motivation and this work ethic just to help people and to change the specialty.
Absolutely.
I've talked to other program directors as well. They've echoed that. And what we were moving towards was mentorship. I think it's so important because I was on a rotation. I'm going to just tell a quick story. I was on a rotation. Joining me on the rotation was a freshman in undergrad. And I was just thinking, wait a minute, if I had this type of mentorship, I mean, literally, this girl was listening to everything that the doctor was telling us as med students, asking, getting that exposure, doing everything that we were doing, but was a freshman in undergrad. And I said, man, that mentorship from where she is until to where I am would have been so valuable for me. Dr. Estes, talk about a little bit about, mentorship in general and beyond med students. Should residents have a mentor? Should fellows or attendings have a mentor? Talk about it beyond that. What do you think?
Oh my God, everybody should have multiples of mentors. I mean, my personal opinion, and actually not even my personal opinion, but well established just fact is that there is not one mentor to rule them all of us need multiple mentors to speak to different areas of our lives. And if you're just looking strictly at medicine, you might have one mentor to help you with your bedside clinical exam skills. You might have another mentor who helps you with your academic career path and trajectory. You might have another mentor who helps you with your research. You might have another mentor who helps you with some side project hobby that you have, like street medicine. There are so many different people that we need to speak into our lives to help guide us in all of these different facets of who we are as human beings, let alone who we are as doctors. I have had the pleasure of having multiple mentors over the course of my career. I've had the pleasure of being a mentor to many people over the course of my career. And there are seasons for certain mentors, and then there are certain people who have been very long-standing mentors that I still go back to time and time again whenever I find myself in a conundrum. But the bottom line is that you should always be on the lookout for people who you think that you can emulate in some way or that you think will be able to help speak into your life in a specific way.
I'm sitting here thinking about, man, I need about 6 or 7 more mentors. I need one for my finances. I need one for, I'm just going down the list of all the issues that I feel like are in my life right now.
But
But that makes,
seriously, it's so true. And I mean, we could get deep into the weeds about a mentor versus a coach versus an advisor versus, actually an advocate. There are so many different facets to this, and I could get real medical education nerdy on you about all of it.
so, I'm sure. And we'd probably love it, actually. So, so let's really dive into some emergency medicine specific issues. And one of those we know is workforce uncertainty. What keeps you going in the field despite some of the talk?
Well, I'll preface everything that I say next by saying that I will propose to you that there is no uncertainty about emergency medicine. As long as people have chest pain at 2 a.m., then there will be a need for our specialty. The workforce study, when it was published, was based off of a series of presumptions. In order to do that kind of study, you have to make certain assumptions about numbers that you go into the calculations of the data. That's just how the research works. We didn't anticipate a global pandemic. We didn't anticipate a lot of the older generations of docs and a lot of the younger generations of docs too taking early retirement because of that. We didn't anticipate a lot of the changes that have happened to the specialty over the last 5 or 6 years. And all of those changes have meant that some of those assumptions that we made about numbers that contributed to the workforce study just simply aren't true with more modern data. It doesn't mean that the research was wrong based off of those assumptions for the time. It just means that the assumptions didn't pan out. And so, no, the workforce study is not correct in its original form. And You can see a lot of subsequent analyses for and against it and from a lot of different directions. But the bottom line is that emergency medicine as a specialty is not dying. Emergency medicine as a specialty is still very vibrant. We are going through a period of transition and change because the world around us is transitioning and changing. And at its very base nature, emergency medicine has always been a specialty that stood for our communities and stood for our patients. And so, as long as there are changing needs in our communities, as long as our patients are having changing needs, then we will always change in response to those needs.
So you heard it here first, folks, right? This was an exclusive. Emergency medicine is not going anywhere. I love it. I love it. Burnout, right? We always hear about burnout as well. As we really grapple with systemic issues like staffing crises and burnout in the EM, what innovative ideas or approaches or perspectives do you kind of see emerging as we continue with emergency medicine?
Now, burnout is very real. Like not that, I say that and the immediate comparison is that the workforce study was not real. No, it was very real too. But burnout has always been an issue for emergency medicine. We have the distinct pleasure of seeing the best and the worst that humanity has to offer on a daily basis. And for, oh gosh, don't quote me on this number, but at least the last 2 decades, emergency medicine has consistently ranked in the top 5 most burned out specialties because it is a hard job. And we all have facts and theories, personal opinions about why exactly burnout happens. There are many factors that go into it. A lot of young doctors come right out of residency graduation and decide that they're going to work 24 shifts a month in order to buy the house and the car and the boat all at the same time.
And the pool.
That's
You got to get a
Yeah, and the
pool.
pool, right? Exactly. Go big or go home, right? That is too much working. You were going to burn out. That's just too much on your plate all at the same time. A lot of us get overextended in other ways. We take on too many committees, too many extra things on the side, and then we don't have enough time doing the things that actually remind us that we're human. Time spent with family, time spent with friends, time spent with our hobbies that actually make us want to continue to live life. And then we burn out from that way. Some of us just deal with a lot of really bad things. A lot of us burned out, myself included, in the middle of the pandemic because we just saw a lot of really bad things. I personally can look back at the last 8 years that I've been out from training and say I've probably been burned out about 3 distinct times. Been burned out once because I was working too hard, once because my hospital system was failing and I didn't feel like I really had any sort of ownership in that. And I had to find some way in order to actually have ownership in the issues that were going on. And once because of the pandemic. And there wasn't anything that I could do about that. And I am living proof that when we encourage everybody to seek mental health help, that you should seek mental health help because it helps. And so I don't think that burnout is anything that can be avoided. Everybody, no matter what your specialty is, goes through a period of time where they don't like what they do. And at its base nature, that is what burnout is, just not liking what you do any longer. But burnout isn't a binary state. Burnout isn't a failure. Burnout isn't the end of the road. Burnout is now something that we can learn to navigate our ways through. Burnout is something that we are being taught about. Burnout is something that we have more resources to deal with than we have at any other time in our history before. Burnout is a chance to reevaluate. Burnout is a chance to reassess. Hopefully, you're doing all of those things before you're burned out, but I can say that I have been able to come through each of my moments of burnout and still love what I do. I don't like what I do every single day, but I still love what I do. And I'm one of the lucky ones. Not everybody can say that. But just because there are going to be bad days, I don't think is a reason to not pursue a specialty that you think that you're going to love. Because you will love it and there will be bad days. But there's lots of ways that you can find support to help you through the bad days.
I was over here saying, preach, Pastor Estes. It's a word.
It really is. It really is.
Oh man.
So
You
before we
guys are
get to
getting
our
my hard-fought stream of consciousness here. I have all the feels and all the experiences, let me tell you.
before we get to the last question, I want you to think about, so we're doing this thing on our podcast where you don't know who our next guest is going to be, right? Just so let everybody know, like I'm not making this up. You have no idea who our next guest is, correct, Dr.
I
Estes?
You are absolutely correct. I have no idea.
And to be honest, we don't know who our next guest is just yet.
Twist.
All right. But I want you to think about a question, just a question that our next guest can answer. Could be about emergency medicine, it could be about anything, but we're going to pose it at the end of that conversation. A question that, we'll say the same thing. This was a question from our last guest. Just answer it however you think you should answer it. We're not going to give them any preface or anything. So think about that. But I'm going to ask you this question first. So if you had unlimited power, right? Unlimited power to really reshape EM education, what do you think would be one radical or bold change that you would implement immediately to really better prepare trainees for the reality of EM practice?
Oh my gosh, that was
Got you
you
thinking.
threw me a
I
curveball
wish I
with
would have said that was the question that the last guest answered.
you could have said that and I would have had
Asked.
absolutely no clue. You really threw a curveball when you said emergency medicine education because I thought you were just going to say emergency medicine. I'm like, I got this in the bag. But when you said education, it really made me think. So, okay, I'm going to say this out loud and bear with me because I'm not actually serious with my answer, but I'm going to explain my answer.
Okay.
So,
Okay. We're ready.
answer, here's the answer. Go back to paper charting. Explanation of the answer, because I don't actually mean that. Electronic medical records have revolutionized healthcare and they are a godsend.
Mhm.
But back in my day, when I we had paper charts when I was in medical school, and no, it wasn't because it was that long ago, but because my med school was just on a paper charting system up until like right before I graduated.
Mhm.
But there was a certain thing that happened with paper charts that no longer happens with an electronic medical system because of the medical legal stuff that happens with electronic medical record keeping. When I was a medical student, we were responsible for handwriting every single order. We were responsible for updating every single Word document, printed daily progress note, signing off on them, having our residents co-sign it. We were responsible for doing the filling out the triplicate forms that got patients transferred between floors, that did admit orders, that did diet orders. We did a lot of paperwork, which sucked. Don't get me wrong, which sounds boring, which took up a lot of time. You learned very quickly what your favorite style of pen was, okay? They were a hot commodity. But there was something that happened in the middle of all of that where you really learned medicine. If you write metoprolol, 25 milligrams PO BID, for 7 days times 7 days, if you write that every single day for 5 days, you just kind of learn it. If you write out admit orders, you just kind of learn them over time. And I think because of the way that most electronic medical systems work these days, even though our med students nowadays can pen orders, we've lost a lot of that. And that kind of makes me sad
Mm.
because you all don't get the opportunity to learn that kind of just like practical application of medicine, like how I got to learn it. And not that paper charting was great. No, 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 no. But I wish our modern system worked a little bit better. That way you guys could have that same kind of responsibility for your patients to be able to learn it kind of more along the same way that I was able to learn it.
Wow, so it's the repetition in what you wrote, not just writing, but that repetition that helped you learn. Because right now, the repetition is in clicking.
Yeah. Guess what? Order sets are only as smart as the people who program them.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So
Wow.
I don't know. There's just something that's different these days. So call me an old fart, call me, a fogey from another age. Call me whatever you want to call me. But I would like to see a little bit of that come back.
All right. So now, what question do you have for our next guest?
I gotta say, I'm really excited about this one. And I'm blatantly stealing it from a question that somebody else asked me. So I'm passing it on, okay? If the future you, 10 years from now, could look back and tell the current you in the present something, what would it be?
Ooh, that is good.
Right? We're getting a little meta, a
Ooh,
little
that is
inception,
right.
like
That's
a
good.
little tell yourself your own advice kind of thing. There you go.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, we're gonna remember that. We don't know who our next guest is, but they're getting asked that question, and we'll see what they say, and then hopefully they'll have an even better question for the next guest, and we'll just keep passing it on. So, I think that's gonna be fun. Jasmine, Ty, what else do you guys have for this was a great conversation, right? Don't you
It
guys
was
agree?
I
amazing.
think that it was perfect,
Amazing.
and I really appreciate you explaining your paper charting idea quickly because I was about to just pass out. You want us to get back to the fire hazards? You want us to get back to hand cramps
I
and
know.
stolen pens? What are
I
you
could
saying?
feel the
I
panic
appreciate it.
brewing. I had to go real fast in the explanation there. No, 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 no. It's like the ownership. Like I want you all to be able to own your patients the same way I was able to own my patients.
I
Yeah.
do think that we can
Yes.
become robotic. And I definitely had a very humbling moment when one day, in my haste, I went to a patient to just speak to I think it was like their caregiver about the patient. And I could not remember the patient's name. So I called the patient to the patient and their caregiver. I walked out of that room. And I couldn't believe myself. I disgusted myself. I became one of those people that says the patient, that says room 4. Oh, so I can totally understand the way that being a little more intimately involved with the patient records can really help you to pay attention to the small details and to remember just everything that you're putting on there. Because even when it comes to like a paper chart, if depending on where they're kept, you have to go through and look for the name. When you're assigned a patient, you just already have your list, so you can just see like room 284 or whatever and just go into that chart. So I can appreciate that.
I'm just sitting here just basking in all the pearls and the tidbits that Dr. Estes has given us. And like I said, I have been like saved by this testimony from Dr. Estes. So I'm still basking in that. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Oh, I just love that you guys have so much insight at this stage of your early careers to be able to be asking the questions, to be thinking outside the next step, to be projecting forward into the longevity of wherever your worlds are going to be taking you. You have my admiration and applause because I certainly couldn't have conceptualized this when I was a third or a fourth year medical student. Like I was surviving, like I barely could feed myself, okay? So kudos to all y'all.
Now we're still eating ramen noodles now. It's just that we're doing a podcast. That is all.
That is true. If you could leave our listeners with one takeaway about EM in general, what would it be?
It's a privilege. I see my job as a calling and as a privilege. And not that everybody has to see their job that way. Like this is purely me. But I think that what we can do for our patients, how we can serve humanity in this way is a privilege.
Wow. And Dr. Estes, it has been a privilege to have you on our show, Critical Conversations, Medicine Policy, and the Frontline Experience.